Alright, take another crack at the hypershade here. Looking good. Oops. Alright, and I think, let's see, yeah, that's probably fine. Whatever this was, this dark gray thing, you can make it even darker. Okay, now I was going to make these slots here. So, which one of these was it? I think I was thinking about the pipe with the rounded cap, but we're actually not going to do it that way. I'm just going to make we'll just make this with a cylinder. In fact, I'm just going to, well, we'll make a new one. So, cylinder. And I'm going to grab all of these faces. Make sure I basically have 1/2 of it selected here. And then edit mesh, and there's a few ways we could do this. We'll go ahead and try to extract it. Yeah, that's probably the best. And then I'll go ahead and combine these again. I'll double click the outer edges there. You can see what I'm doing. And then we can just go to bridge, and we'll go ahead and fill that stuff right on in. And we are going to again want to do a little inset here on these top faces. Sorry, extrude. Inset is what it's called in ZBrush. I'm trying not to get my terminology confused, but I've been doing a lot more modeling in ZBrush than Maya, so it creeps in. Okay, let me go to Edit Mesh and then Extrude. So that gives us our nice edge there to support the extra roundness. And we can just confirm that's working. There's something happening here, but I'm not that worried about it. I don't think it's actually going to have an impact on how the smooth operation works. Well, we can definitely see some stuff happening there. It's supposed to be rubbery, but I think probably to be perfectly safe here, let me just back out. I'm just going to add one more. So we'll just kind of shrink this in. And then we'll just use insert edge loop to throw one more in there. And we can support it up here as well. So now that edge has a bunch of quads on it, and the quads aren't real long, so it should have no trouble understanding. Let me go to Mesh Tools, Mesh Display. I just noticed there's like a little, whatever, like this little thing here, just from where we separated it and then recombined it. So we'll just go to Soften Edge. So that's all nice, and then we can throw a smooth on there. And there we go. That's looking a lot better. So it is, oh, look at that. It's a little bit distorted. So I'm going to remove the smooth. I wonder where that's even coming from. Let me go ahead and delete the history on it. And we'll try another smooth. So in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and eliminate that middle edge. Just to get that nice and clean. And then we need to figure out approximately how big this thing is going to be. We'll grab its X value from one of these other objects here. That's interesting. So I guess because normally when you create something, it knows where it lives relative to the origin. So if I go to display grid, the origin is going to basically be like where this line and this line come together. And I think because I built this thing off of the origin, it's it's confused about what its x value is. So there's a few ways we could address this. We could just eyeball it, which would probably be okay, or I can turn on my grid snap, which is this guy right here, and then I can just move it, and you can see now this little thing it's got this little circle. I know there's a lot going on with all these edges, but if I grab the circle and I just start moving it, it's automatically going to snap to the grid. So that's going to be the easiest way to get it to forget where it was created, but I need to zero this stuff out so that it now knows where it lives. Or it'll pretend like it was created there. So I'll go ahead and we'll just go to Edit, what is it, Modify, Freeze Transforms, right here. And if you look over at these values, when I hit Freeze Transforms, they will zero out. So now it's basically acting like it got created at the origin. But I'm looking at this this area down here. It doesn't really matter. In fact, I'm not even going to fix it. I'll just show you. I'll just tell you what I would do. If I needed for some reason for this to be clean, I would just delete these top edges, duplicate this one, rotate it 180 degrees, and re-weld it, and it would be probably fine. It does look like we're getting kind of a little bit of that, like that same averaging going on. So if I just kill that, we'll get a nice straight line there. So I can just drop this, something like that. And now I can get that X value from this other object, and it should be perfectly aligned. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this and scoot it over a little bit. Alright, so now let's go ahead and make this little pattern thing in here. Zoom out a little bit, make sure we're not missing something obvious. This might actually be too big. Yeah, because we need this much space underneath it for that other thing, so maybe it's just too wide. Yeah, look, you can see I missed this here. So here are these little squares, and this thing's actually narrower than the squares. So that's a little bit of a hassle, because we need to basically, if I shrink it like this, now we're getting a different value here for the width of the this area versus this area. So one of the nice things are we can just go through and select, let's see, I'm going to grab the first smooth and we'll delete that. And then I'm going to go back to the second smooth and we'll delete that. And now I just have a few little edges to work with here, and it's always better to work with fewer edges. So now I can just kind of move these in a little bit. And then we can just add those smooths back. So there's the first one. We still have that crunchy edge. So we add the second one, and now it's lovely. And now these things are clearly too big, so we'll go ahead and reduce them as well. Cool. This could probably be a little bit rounder, but now what are you going to do? All right, let's make a plane here. And these are going to start off their lives as perfect squares, which is great. So I can use that to my advantage. So I just want to kind of get this close-ish. We'll make it perfect in a minute. And we're just going to get these to basically line up there. And then extend pretty close to the edge there. So now I've lost my nice little squares, so I just need to come over to my construction history and we'll just add a few more. Whoops, not on that axis. Let's try this one. Too many. There we go. Alright, so I am going to, whoops, tap the F8 key a couple times. Tap the Q to make that thing go away, so we can delete that one. And that one. We may just have to reuse a couple of these. I'm not sure if the actual values are going to work out. And then there's like this one down here. And that one we don't need. So So this one we can scoot up a little bit. We'll probably need to do an extract on it so that I can clone another one down here. In fact, I think what I'll do instead is I'll just go to mesh separate, and so now each of these is its own thing. So I'm going to need a sharp edge there and a sharp edge down there. So in order to do that, go ahead and just do a modify center pivot on this piece, and we can go a little bit wider. And then I'm going to need to square off these internal faces. So we can just reposition that one, and then we'll go to insert edge loop. Alright, so I'm going to just go ahead and add a smooth, and then I'm going to add another smooth, and then just go to the top view, and we'll just select like that many, give it a little trim, and now we can scoot it up so that it lines up nicely with that. We'll do another mesh over here, center pivot, and then a couple of smooths. And this one I think I'm going to need it to be a little bit sharper on the edge. So I'm going to add, let me think, what's the best way to go about this? I just noticed it's like a little bit melty, so maybe it's that there's like too many, like it's too wide this way versus this way. You can see that these edges are a little bit longer, but maybe just a subdivide will work. So we'll just add a divisions, and now we'll try that smooth again. So one, and then another. I think that's great. I'm going to go ahead and just duplicate it, Control D. And I know I need like an equal amount of distance here between all of these features, so I'll just scoot them around until I find what I'm looking for. And then we can kind of repeat. In fact, I'm just going to delete, whoops. Going to delete, if I can select it, this one, and we'll just duplicate this, Control D. We'll type in exactly 180. Get it essentially where it needs to be. Delete some faces here. Looks like maybe there's a little bit of a gap down there that's a little bit wider than these other ones. So I'm going to do a little scale here. Just make this a little bit more consistent. All right. So it's going to be a little bit of a thing to try to get this to bake exactly as I'm thinking without having to actually go through and like remove the stuff so that I can drop this to the surface. I'll have to figure it out. But I think it'll work okay. All right. Let's see, 13 minutes. Sorry guys, this one ran a little bit long. Okay, I'll pick it up in the next video.